confused, but I'm happy at the same time for closure on that part.
Every child has a right to know who their biological father is.
What do you mean everyone in town knows that he's your father?
Because I was messing with him first.
And there's no way she could be my daughter, Your Honor.
Why do you think he's denying the baby?
She remember me chasing her up and down the street, but she can't remember who fathered her child.
You are done with the relationship?
Yes, I am.
Ms. Lindsay is sure of one thing and one thing only, that Mr. Darren Brink here is her father. She knows it. She says everyone in town knows it, and she just wants the DNA test results to prove it. Mr. Darren Brink, on the other hand, says that he might have slept with Miss Lindsay's mother at one point, but he says that doesn't mean anything because he's 100% certain he could never be Miss Lindsay's father.
Right, Your Honor, I met her and we just had like a hit and run situation. She disappeared on me, and then we got back together again, and a couple days later she went her way, and it just kept on for years that way. And there's no way she could be my daughter, Your Honor.
So, Ms. Lindsay, what do you mean everyone in town knows that he's your father?
Okay, I'm trying to get you, Mr. Darren Brink, but if you admit that you slept with Miss Lindsay's mother at least once around the period she was conceived, then it's actually scientifically possible for her to be your daughter. It doesn't matter whether the situation was a hit and run one. What matters is that you hit. Miss Lindsay also has her reasons for believing Mr. Darren Brink is her father.
You were 16.
Yes.
And an ex of Mr. Darren Brink's comes to your house.
Yes.
And says you're the child that your mother had with Mr. Darren Brink.
Yes, Your Honor.
In other words, the ex thinks you're the child that came in between her and Mr. Darren Brink.
Yes, Your Honor.
When she said this to you, what did you say?
Well, at first I was like, what? You're wrong. There's no way. And I came to my mother and I talked to her about it, and she told me no, that he was not my father.
When Ms. Lindsay heard this, she went to her mother and was told that Mr. Darren Brink wasn't her father and that her father was another man entirely. Unfortunately, Ms. Lindsay had never actually met that man. Even to this day, she hasn't met him.
Mr. Darren Brink.
Yes, Your Honor.
When she said this to you, what did you say?
Well, at first I was like, what? You're wrong. There's no way. And I came to my mother and I talked to her about it, and she told me no, that he was not my father, that another man that she had told me was my dad was my dad.
She said this other man is your father, but you'd never met that man.
No, I still haven't, so I don't know who that is.
Okay.
So basically, Mr. Darren Brink is now Ms. Lindsay's next-door neighbor and potential father. Incredibly, Ms. Lindsay never really broached this topic with him until today. Neela Thompson, Ms. Lindsay's mother, is also in court today, and she has a fair bit to say too.
We dated off and on, and I was involved with somebody else, and he was involved with somebody else. 5 years ago, we met back up and started having conversation and platonic relationship. We're best of friends.
So, Mr. Darren Brink, did you know about the pregnancy?
I did not, Your Honor. She never told me that she was pregnant. She never told me I even had a child.
You didn't tell him you...
Mr. Darren Brink never actually knew that Ms. Thompson got pregnant. All of this is news to him. Ms. Thompson says she had no reason to tell him because she's sure he isn't the father. So Mr. Darren Brink is sure he isn't the father. Ms. Thompson is sure he is not the father. But somehow Ms. Lindsay, the only person who wasn't there, is sure Mr. Darren Brink is her father. Why?
Thank you. What does this calendar outline?
This calendar shows, for one, the day that I was born. And if you count back, if I was born full term, the conception would be between May and June. And the doctors did say that I was born a month premature, which puts my due date at March 11th, which my mother would be right at that time. However, I had no health problems when I was born. I was born at a normal weight.
The point Miss Lindsay seems to be making is that her mother and Mr. Darren Brink were sleeping together at the time she was conceived. But does Mr. Darren Brink even remember this?
Premature.
Mr. Darren Brink?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you agree with the dates set forth on this calendar?
I really couldn't tell you because back then it was hectic. I mean, I had so much going on. That
it was hectic?
Yes. It was back in the 70s, so I'm sure you understand what...
No, I was just a kid then, so...
I did a lot of drugs back then, so I really couldn't tell you.
There you have it, folks. Mr. Darren Brink is so sure he isn't Miss Lindsay's father, but he actually cannot tell because he had so many sexual relationships with so many people.
How long did your sexual relationship with Miss Hampton last?
We got together. We were together for maybe a couple of weeks, and then she disappeared. And then we meet again a few years later. So it was like that.
So you all just were kind of sex partners?
Yes.
Correct, Your Honor.
Whatever.
Yes, Your Honor.
For some reason, Ms. Thompson seems very pleased about this. What's so amusing, Ms. Thompson? Are you reminiscing about those times? Let's move on. Ms. Lindsay has a bunch of other reasons why she doesn't believe her mother when it comes to this issue.
To not believe your mother.
The doctors did say that I was born a month early, but they also said that I was going to be a boy the entire time she was pregnant with me. So they could have been wrong. Second thing, my mom does admit to having a child with Mr. Brink. Throughout my life, though, the dates have kind of changed a little bit. I remember at one time it was that she was an older sister. Then I remember at another time she was a younger sister than me, and she was.
And this is true. Ms. Thompson confesses on the stand that she had a stillborn that was certainly Mr. Brink's child. And guess what? Mr. Brink never heard about that either. But Ms. Lindsay doesn't believe her mother's testimony because she says evidence of this child's existence does not exist. Ms. Lindsay is certain her mother is lying because this wouldn't be her first time.
Because it's not the first time. She didn't technically lie about another brother, but she didn't tell me about another brother. She got pregnant and gave him up for adoption. It went through social media that he found me. And I'm like, wait, what are you talking about? You're not my brother. And I called my mom at that time and I said, I have another brother? And she's like, oh.
Yeah, what? Ms. Thompson, what's up with that? So we have Ms. Thompson who's shown a pattern of lies, Mr. Brink who cannot remember who he slept with and when he slept with them, and Ms. Lindsay who's certain that Mr. Brink is her father. Let's see what the DNA test has to say about this case.
Mr. Brink, you are not her father.
Sorry. It doesn't matter. I consider her my daughter.
Ms. Allen is in court today with her daughter, Miss Baylor. She says after a brief fling with Mr. Childs, she discovered that she was pregnant with his baby. Ms. Allen says in the beginning, Mr. Childs was happy to claim Miss Baylor, but his wife convinced him that the child wasn't his. Mr. Childs and his wife believe that Ms. Allen was involved with several other people at the time of Miss Baylor's conception. Ms. Allen is now looking to get the results of the DNA test and prove that Miss Baylor is Mr. Childs' daughter.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Allen, why is Mr. Childs denying your daughter?
His petty wife. She been doing that for years. You wasn't there when we were sleeping together or nothing. So I don't think she have anything to do with it.
So you're basically blaming his wife?
Yes.
She should blame herself, Your Honor.
What?
Why did it take you 20 years to figure out that you should get a DNA test?
Because I didn't need to go through the drama. I didn't need to go through the drama.
All right.
Mr. Childs says that's good and great, but Ms. Allen should actually blame herself for not figuring out she needed to find her child's father for the past 20 years. Okay, maybe that's a fair point, but it shows the extent of the bad blood between these two. Let's get one thing straight. Ms. Allen and Mr. Childs don't like each other at all.
Let's talk one at a time, because I do want to understand this. How did you all even get together?
She was friends with cousins of mine, and we got together like that. We ended up messing around or whatever. Nothing serious.
So you all get together, you have mutual friends, you start having sex.
Well,
obviously unprotected.
It started like this. We had a friend that got killed, and me and him, I would call and check on him and things like that. Then one day, I just came through after a football game, and he wanted to ride with me, and so we went on and had drinks or whatever.
Okay, great story. Ms. Allen says that Mr. Childs and she made Miss Baylor that night, and that's the reason she's here. That wasn't the only time they were intimate either. Ms. Allen says they got together a few times after that, and that was it.
I told him, I said, she may be your child.
You told him directly?
Yes. I told him, I said, it's a possibility that she may not be.
So you said it is a possibility that she may not be yours.
Exactly.
So you acknowledge this doubt?
Yeah.
Okay, so Mr. Childs?
Yes, ma'am.
How did the story go in your assessment?
Mr. Childs says the relationship was never serious, and sometimes you get tired of hearing this on paternity court. The supposed fathers always say the relationship was never serious like that even matters. Okay, what if it was not serious? A child could still have come from it.
Oh, hey, listen, I'm trying to get at you or anything like that. No, never that. It's just a moment that happened. So I even asked her, once I found out, I heard she was pregnant. Hey, are you pregnant? You supposed to be pregnant by me? Oh, I don't know. I don't know if it's yours or not. So I'm like, okay, I'll tell you what. If you're pregnant and it's mine, let's get a DNA test so we can go ahead and get this out of the way. Have no problem with taking care of her because she would have been my first. I don't see her again for months.
So Mr. Childs was ready to step up, but unfortunately didn't see any plate to step up to. It gets worse. When Miss Baylor was born, Ms. Allen didn't invite Mr. Childs to the hospital. She says she informed the other possible fathers that they may also be Ms. Baylor's dad, but she didn't invite any of them to the hospital either. But that's beside the point. 20 years ago, Ms. Allen didn't know for sure if Mr. Childs was her kid's father. Today, she knows for sure. What changed?
The
Because
father.
I was messing with him first.
How do you know?
From the, what you mean? How do I know that? I had to go through the drama with Miss Johnson. Up and down the road, she following me.
How can she remember me chasing her up and down the street, but she can't remember who fathered her child? Why am I living in her head rent-free, but she can't remember who fathered her child? Furthermore, Your Honor, he's always been there for my children. So this little song and dance she doing, I'm telling the truth. Why would she?
Yeah, whatever.
Okay, I think it's important to know too. When we met her daughter.
Well, great question, Ms. Johnson. All of this just goes to show that there are significant doubts in Ms. Allen's mind about who the real father of her child is. But somehow she's in court today, claiming that she knows who is and that he's Mr. Childs. This Mr. Childs is taking none of that. Anyway, did Ms. Allen really test another man?
Okay.
That is true.
Tell the court about that.
That is true, but that was somebody that I wasn't even messing with him. This was something that
Why are you testing
came
me?
Why would
about.
you test someone you aren't messing with?
This is
Because she was fishing
He
for-
came out and asked me, and he said, you know, I was messing with your mom around the time I wanted to get a DNA test with you.
Okay, someone reached out to you,
Yes.
Ms. Baylor, and said, I think I may be your father and I want to have a test.
The bottom line is Ms. Allen hasn't had a DNA test with any of the other men she was with at the time Ms. Baylor was conceived, and she's somehow certain that of all of those men, Mr. Childs has got to be the one. Let's see what the DNA test has to say about this.
Mr. Childs, you are not the father.
It's okay, Your Honor. You know, at the same time.
It's okay, honey. It's okay.
Mr. Hunter is completely certain that he isn't Josiah's father. Ms. Holden, Josiah's mother, says this is a lie and that Mr. Hunter is indeed the father of Josiah. She says she was earlier confused about the paternity of Josiah because she was given incorrect medical information, but now she's beyond certain that Josiah belongs to Mr. Hunter. Mr. Hunter, on the other hand, just thinks Ms. Holden wants him to be the father so that she can have access to his money.
You worry she's only saying you did because of the financial security you provide for her. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Holden, you admit you were confused about your son's biological father because you were given incorrect medical information, but you are 100% certain Mr. Hunter is the father. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Hunter, you say this is about financial security?
Yes.
Tell the court why you feel that way, sir.
Not only has Mr. Hunter stepped up as a father to Josiah, but he's also gotten emotionally attached to the boy as well. Ms. Holden says her relationship with Mr. Hunter started off platonically, but at some point they decided to have intercourse.
Yes.
So were you having sex with protection?
No.
Here we go. You all haven't agreed on one thing yet. Who said yes?
She said no. I said yes, we were using protection.
No, we wasn't.
Okay. That's what we call reasonable doubt in the criminal court. Reasonable doubt. So now listen, you're having sex. One says you're using protection, one says you're not.
Exactly, Judge Lake. Mr. Hunter says they weren't even dating at this point because Ms. Holden was sleeping with another of her friends. And was she using protection with that friend?
Were you using protection with that friend?
No, Your Honor.
All right. So when you find out you're pregnant, you got one friend that you dating that Mr. Hunter is aware of, and now you've also made this friend, Mr. Hunter, into a sexual partner. When you get pregnant, who do you tell?
Mr. Hunter.
You do?
Yes.
What happened?
Well, if she isn't using protection with that friend, how does she know that Josiah belongs to Mr. Hunter and not the other friend? Short answer, she doesn't know. Anyway, when Ms. Holden realized she was pregnant, she first told Mr. Hunter about it. At that point, Mr. Hunter assumed that the child was his, but then she told him that there could be another father.
I was feeling like, okay, I could be as if like, okay, now you're sleeping with, who knows who you're sleeping with. I've been through other situations in my past to where like now it's like it's a role playing in my head again. Here we go again. Something, you know, the same situation. And it's, you know, when she said she could, it kind of like, it made me feel some type of way.
Because you've been through a paternity situation before?
Do you know what could make this case worse? What could make Mr. Hunter start completely doubting that this child belongs to him, naming the child after another man? Thankfully, Ms. Holden is a very reasonable person and didn't do anything as crazy as that.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, because I named my son after someone else.
What? So, Ms. Holden, did you know Mr. Hunter had doubts all this time?
Yes.
You did?
Yes.
Did you invite him to the hospital for the birth?
No, ma'am.
You didn't?
No, ma'am.
This is confusing. Now, you're paying for everything, but you don't want to get attached because of your previous paternity situation.
Right.
But you're accepting his support, right, Miss Holden?
Right? It's really hard to think of a case more confusing than this one. To make things even more confusing, Mr. Hunter dropped Ms. Holden off at the hospital when she gave birth. He just didn't enter to witness the birth of a baby that could be his. Maybe that's why Ms. Holden named the child after another man anyway. It's rare to see men in paternity court who have the best reasons not to think a child belongs to them. But Mr. Hunter here, I don't think any of us can judge him for thinking that Josiah belongs to another man. However, Ms. Holden has some pretty sensible reasons for doing all that.
November the 15th, this is when I slept with Mr. Hunter. I went to the doctor. My first due date they gave me was August 2nd.
Okay.
And then I went back to the doctor and they gave me August 9th, and I slept with the other man on the 18th of November.
So that's just 3 days apart.
3 days apart, yes, ma'am.
So when you had the original due date, for you counted back.
Yes, that Mr. Hunter was the father.
And then she got another date from the doctor that made her believe that the other man, who we can safely assume is James Josiah, was the father as well. But then Josiah was born 3 weeks early, which makes her believe that Mr. Hunter is the father. This is such a complex puzzle that can only be unraveled by the DNA test. So let's see what it says.
Mr. Hunter, you are not the father. So very sorry.
Sorry.
Mr. Hunter, I can see that hurt, and that's not the news I wanted to deliver today.
I'm gonna still be in his life.
Ms. Allen thinks that Mr. Levant is denying her 6-month-old Layla only because he wants to keep their affair a secret. Mr. Levant says this is a lie, and he and his girlfriend, Ms. Lanier, are in court today to prove Ms. Allen wrong.
About the situation today.
He's denying our child, and he needs to step up to be a man.
Why do you think he's denying the baby?
Because of his girlfriend, of course. His girlfriend telling him lies.
The girlfriend tells him lies?
Yes, Your Honor.
Like what?
No, I don't.
Telling him that the baby don't look like him.
That baby too light.
My baby do not too light. Just because I have to like dark. And he don't want to break up his happy home with his girlfriend.
Mr. Levant has been with his girlfriend for a while, and they have 3 children together. He also doesn't deny having intercourse with Miss Allen. He just says he split up with his girlfriend for one night after an argument, and that night he found himself in Miss Allen's bed.
It was not one night.
We just split up.
Your Honor.
Like, we was going through some stuff.
No, it wasn't.
And
yes, it
we
was.
We had
no,
a break
wasn't.
for a minute.
Yes, it was
no,
a one-night stand.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
You just married because I got my baby, so be quiet. You wasn't here.
So wait a minute.
You tried to break up a happy home because you knew we had 3 kids together for the longest. You've been commenting on my Facebook profile.
No, I was there because I was telling you to keep him away from me.
No.
Okay, so it's clear there's no love lost between these two. It's also clear that Ms. Lanier may be the one telling Mr. Levant not to accept Miss Allen's baby.
Ms. Allen, I need to know, did you know Mr. Levant had a girlfriend and 3 children when you were sleeping with him?
No.
Yes, you did.
Was it just a one-night stand?
No, it wasn't.
You commented on
we
my
was
firstborn
together,
child.
like I said, we was together 2010.
Y'all never
I
was
met him.
together.
No, yes, we was.
Over the phone?
Okay, first off, okay, I wasn't talking to you. Okay.
So wait a minute, I want to understand the nature of this relationship,
It was
Ms.
a
Allen.
long-distance relationship.
They only talk over the phone.
It was a
Your
long-distance
Honor.
relationship.
So it was a long-distance relationship. You lived in one state, he lived in another?
Ms. Allen insists that she was in a long-distance relationship with Mr. Levant for 5 years. You heard that right, 5 whole years. Mr. Levant admits that he spoke with Miss Allen for a whole year on the phone, and Miss Lanier says she was aware but told Mr. Levant to stop contacting her. You know what? What all of this tells me is that Mr. Levant's contract wasn't a one-night stand. It was a several-year stand, if there's anything like that.
So on this calendar, you claim you were intimate with Mr. Levant on the 27th of December.
Yes.
Your due date
was September the 26th.
was September 26th. So Mr. Levant, do you agree with what this calendar asserts?
Not at all.
You don't believe that?
Not at all.
Why not?
The dates is wrong. You
Okay.
text me a letter, a doctor's letter saying that you was pregnant on the 6th.
On the 6th of January?
Yes.
No, it wasn't.
Did you bring that letter?
No.
That seems like solid evidence to me. If what Miss Allen is saying is correct and she didn't sleep with any other person in that period, then Mr. Levant has to be the father of her child. But we know things aren't always that straightforward in paternity court, don't we?
Do you agree with what this calendar asserts?
Not at all.
You don't believe that?
Not at all.
Why not?
The dates is wrong. You
Okay.
text me a letter, a doctor's letter saying that you was pregnant on the 6th.
On the 6th of January?
Yes.
No, it wasn't.
Did you bring that letter?
No.
So, okay, that doesn't negate the fact that you all may have had sex on the 27th of December.
Ms. Lanier says that Ms. Allen was having sex with other men at the time, that she slept with Mr. Levant, and she's just doing all of this to break up her home.
Other men, and Mr. Mitchell was her current boyfriend. She broke up with her boyfriend just to break up my happy home with Mr. Levant.
You don't know, so you wasn't there.
You are saying that Ms. Allen was intimate with another man somewhere during this timeline.
Yes.
Can you tell the court where?
In the park.
It was not at the park.
I mean, at what?
It was not at the park.
You slept with Mr. Mitchell in the park.
Like I said, it was not at the park.
Now things are getting interesting. And guess what? Mr. Mitchell is also in court today. I'm sure he'll have some very interesting things to say about all of this. Before we get to that, things are getting hot for Mr. Levant as his girlfriend says she will break up with him if the child is proven to be his. Mr. Levant then says he's never accepted Layla as his daughter. However, Ms. Allen has text messages that prove just how much Mr. Levant loves her daughter Layla.
Happy Valentine's Day, Lele.
Lele.
Lele. Daddy loves you. Happy Valentine's Day to you, Carlisha. Then you send a picture of
Layla.
Layla. And then he says, Mr. Levant says, what's she doing? And then you say, looking around. And then he says, she looking for me, laugh out loud. And then you say, laugh out loud, nah, her sis. And then you respond, Mr. Levant, and I want my daughter.
Well, Mr. Levant, 5 minutes ago you said you'd never accepted Layla as your daughter, and now text messages are proving that was nothing but a lie. Hey, Mr. Levant, blink 3 times if you need help.
Those text messages are fake. I don't know. That's not me.
It wasn't, Your Honor. How the heck do I send a picture to myself and text myself? That's his number.
So you believe she fabricated all of this?
Yes.
Okay, so what is the motive here? Now, Ms. Lanier, you say she's trying to break you all up, she's been stalking you, and I mean this with all due respect.
But what could be the motive here? Why would Ms. Allen fabricate all these messages? Why would she want to destroy Mr. Levant's life like his girlfriend claims? What could she possibly gain from it?
Would she be so obsessed over you, Mr. Levant?
Exactly.
I mean it respectfully. I really don't mean it in that way. I really want to know what? If you're just talking to her on the phone and nothing was really happening and you weren't having sex with her, you weren't leading her on except a one-night stand. How does, I mean, this is like a movie or something. I mean, one-night stand leads to her wanting to destroy your entire family?
Correct.
Why?
Because she know I'm a good man and I take care of my kids.
Really? That's what you're going with? Anyway, let's hear from Mr. Mitchell, Ms. Allen's ex-boyfriend, who Ms. Lanier claims could also be the father of Layla.
Her mother, Ms. Allen?
Yes, ma'am.
You did. Did she ever tell you that you could be Layla's father?
No, ma'am.
She didn't?
No, ma'am.
And so, do you believe you are Layla's father?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Levant, after you heard Mr. Mitchell's testimony, does that change in any way how you feel about Ms. Allen's assertions?
No.
It doesn't?
No.
I mean, he's a man of few words, but he was pretty direct.
All right then, we've heard from everyone worth hearing from. It's now time to hear from the final authority on the matter, the DNA test.
When it comes to 6-month-old Layla Allen, it has been determined by this court, Mr. Levant, you are not the father.
Yes!
What?
Yes.
Ms. Allen?
He's the only man I slept with, though.